Hi everyone, this is Miss Dilkes from TRIO Student Support Services, and I'm here to help you fill out your FAFSA. Now, usually, students who are in TRIO SSS or any students at Bloomfield College have a few ways to fill out their FAFSA. You can fill it out by yourself or with your parents, or you can fill it out with a TRIO SSS coach, or you can make an appointment with Student Financial Services and they can individually, one-on-one, through either a video chat or even in person, help you fill out your FAFSA for next year. I'm going to go through this federal student aid website. This is a presentation that I found on their website to help you understand how to fill out your FAFSA as if you were with me in case we can't make a one-on-one appointment. I will let you know before I start as I'm scrolling through all of these parts that we don't need, is that you need to know that you need to have your info received by April 15th of this year, 2021. That means that you have to do your FAFSA before that so that you can receive all of the grant aid that you deserve. That means that we're looking at federal Pell Grants and New Jersey TAG grants. And you can't be eligible for all of those unless you complete your FAFSA before April 15th. So you start here and you're a returning user. This never asks for your deadlines because we've already done this. You are a student, so you log in as a student. And I can't stress this enough, as a student, you should always have your FSA ID and password, and hopefully your parents' FSA IDs and passwords with you somewhere. Put it in notes on your phone, write it down somewhere and you keep it somewhere safe. But if you don't, when I help students one-on-one do their FAFSAs, this is actually where most of our time is spent. We forget usernames, we forget passwords, we have to create new ones, we have to answer questions, and it's just a lot of work. If you have all of this on hand, you don't have to worry about that. This is the disclaimer. You click accept, you keep going. You'll always want to start for your next year. So start 2021 FAFSA, and you are renewing it, not doing a new one. Then you want to create a save key. Your save key is a great way if you have to stop halfway through. You can get back to where you were without having to do it all again. This is just the introduction. It'll just give you an idea of the steps that you have to go through and the documents you need. There's nothing you have to do here but click next. Most students are dependent students. That means that they are students who are still on their parents' taxes. Their parents file them as dependents. If you are under 24, if you are not married, if you are not in the military, or you do not have any dependents that you give at least 50% of their care, you are most likely a dependent student. So you'll get to this page, and most of this will already be filled out because you are renewing your information. Make sure it's all correct, click next. Same for this. Make sure your email and your telephone number are updated, click next. Permanent mailing address, make sure it's right, and click next. For some reason, they do Iowa on this, so we're just going to keep saying New Jersey instead of Iowa. It will ask if you've lived in New Jersey for the past 5 years and if you're a U.S. citizen. Once you do that, you click yes, and yes, it will say that you're eligible for financial aid, and you'll complete your application. The next it will ask is your high school completion status. You have a high school diploma or a GED. Your college certificate that you're working on is your first bachelor's degree. You will not have your first bachelor's degree before you begin the school year. And then you have to give them what year you will be next year. So will you be a sophomore? Will you be a junior? Will you be a senior? And it asks if you're interested in being considered for work study. I'll tell you that regardless of if you don't know, I would say yes, because if you say no, you're leaving money that you could possibly have on the table. And why would you want to do that? For any males, they will ask you if you're male or female. And if you're male, they'll ask you if you are registered with Selective Services. That's the draft. Most students did this in college or when they received their driver's license or any kind of ID. If you've done your FAFSA before, you're in Selective Service, so you most likely will say yes. I've never had a student who said that no, they are not registered. If you have a driver's license, it will ask for its number and the state that your driver's license is from. If you don't have one, you leave this blank. It asks if you are if you were in the foster care system, and then it asks the highest schooling completed by your parents. If you only live with one parent or have one parent, then you would only use parent number 1, and the second one would be unknown. Remember that this is the highest completed. Your parents may have started college, but if they did not complete college, that is not the highest completed. So keep that in mind for first generation status. Then it will ask your high school. A lot of this will, again, already be in because this is a renewal. If you have to search, you can search it, and this is what the search looks like, but you most likely will not have to because this is just a renewal of FAFSA. It will then ask if you know your college's federal code. Bloomfield College's federal code is 002597. Again, that's 002597. If you forget that, you can search the school right here, and it will bring you to Bloomfield, and you click yes, that's correct, and add the school. If you're thinking of transferring, you can add, I think, up to 10 schools. So add as many schools as you need to. Yes, you can add up to 10 colleges to your FAFSA, it says. So if you are thinking of transferring, remember you can add other schools. All that says is that your FAFSA is allowed to be accessed by those different colleges. Then you have to say where you're going to live. On campus, with parent, off campus, or other. Choose whatever you think is going to happen. It asks your marital status, if you have any children or other dependents. This is to figure out if you're a dependent student. And then it asks if you are any of these, currently on active military duty, or a veteran, if both your parents are deceased, if you're an emancipated minor, or if someone has legal guardianship of you. If you answer none, you click none of the above and you keep moving. It also asks if you are homeless or are self-supporting or at risk of being homeless. Answer yes or no, keep going. Then it will most likely say that based on your answers, you're considered a dependent student. And then what you need to do is you need to provide information about your parents. It will ask if they're married, and they'll give you some options: married, separated, widowed, never married. Do the one that's correct, and it'll ask what month and year your parents were married or remarried. Then a lot of this information, again, should be in here already because this is a renewal. Your first parent's social security number, their date of birth, their email address. Please just make sure that everything, that email addresses are correct and are up to date, and click next. Information for your other parent, they might ask for this also. It'll ask your parents' state residency status, and then it will ask you to figure out household size. Your parents, yourself, and then it will ask if there are any other children in the house, and then anyone else in the house who live with your parents, and your parents provide more than half of their support and will continue to provide half of their support. So say your grandparents live with your parents and your mom and dad take care of your grandparents and pay for all of their bills, they would be considered then a dependent. Then it asks on the bottom for the number of people in college. You're one, and then if you have anyone else in the house that's in college, you keep adding. Then you click next. Then it asks for your parents' tax returns. This is where sometimes it's another place where students don't have all of the info, and that's why we want to make sure that you do. It will ask if your parents have completed, do not need to file, or will complete their taxes. And it asks what type of income tax return your parents filed. You can find that on the income tax by looking up at the top left. It's usually an IRS 1040 or an IRS 1040 EZ. Then it asks what your parents' filing status is. That's one of the first things. It will say married, filed jointly, married, filed separately. It will say head of household, or it will say single. There are a bunch of them. What's really helpful is this IRS data retrieval tool. You can link to that. It will tell you that you're going out of the FAFSA website. You click yes, and it will bring you to the IRS data retrieval tool. That IRS data retrieval tool, up here it is, so it'll say, see, you're leaving, so would you like to link to the IRS? You can link to the IRS, and that, if you have all of the correct information, so a parent's social security number and their address, exactly how it's written on your tax returns, you might be able to transfer over a lot of your tax information directly from the IRS. What's good about that? What's good about that is, one, it takes a whole bunch of the time that you have to do for FAFSA. It takes it right off. It cuts your time sometimes in half or even more. Two, government knows it's absolutely accurate because it's transferred from the IRS, which means you're less likely to be flagged for verification. And if you've been flagged for verification, you know that that is a pain. If you cannot do it, you just keep moving. When you keep moving, it'll ask you your parents' gross income for 2019. Best thing to do is just look on your form, and right here it says it will be line 8B. So you give them exactly what it says on that line. If it's a zero, it's a zero. If it's $2, it's $2. If it's $1 million and 47 cents, it's $1 million and 47 cents. Then it will ask how much your parent 1 made and parent 2 made. And what you're going to have to do is just really, when I work with students, I follow along. I look for line 1, I look for schedule 1, line 3. I look through all of the information so that I get the right amount of money. What I will tell you is most likely these 2 boxes end up being that gross income that you put in beforehand. If you know at least one parent, then it's really easy. You just subtract that number by the number you gave for your income, and that would be the second parent's number. Then you have to let them know if your parents filed a Schedule 1. Easiest way to do it is to look through all of your tax info until you see if there's a Schedule 1. If there's not, they didn't file it. It also asks if your parent is a dislocated worker. Most of our parents are not, and we would absolutely know if they were a dislocated worker because that's a very specific term for the government. So then it asks if you've received any benefits. Have you received Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, free or reduced lunch, temporary assistance for needy families, WIC, any of those? If you have, you click on it. If you haven't, you click none of the above and you continue. Then it asks for the amount of income tax your parent earned. And again, I just go straight for the line, and that would be if your parents had a IRS Form 1040, it would be line 14, and then you look at Schedule 2, line 2. If your parents don't have a Schedule 2, don't worry about it. So you just give them the information that you have. Then it asks if they have any of the following. It asks if your parents have combat or special combat pay. It asks if you have any college grants reported to the IRS as income. Our students usually never include their grants as income, so usually that is a 0. You look through your parents' taxes to see if they filed for a lifetime learning or American Opportunity Tax Credit, which you can see here is Schedule 3, line 3. If you don't have a Schedule 3, that's a 0. If they took any untaxed portions of their IRAs, you look at those little, all of those little lines. If there are zeros, there are zeros. IRA deductions or tax-exempt interest income. A lot of the time, our students just do zeros across the board here because these are all extenuating circumstances. Then it asks if your parents received child support, if they had any earnings from a cooperative education program, or if they had taxable earnings from employment programs such as federal work study. If you worked federal work study, you might have money from this. Then it starts asking again, how much money, if your parents received child support, how much did they receive? If they are a military, clergy, or other, did they receive housing, food, or other living allowances? Payments to tax-deferred pensions, veterans' non-education benefits, workers' compensation, or disability benefits. This is when it helps to do this with your parents or to ask them beforehand if they had any of these happen to them. Then it asks if you want to skip your parents' assets. I say usually never skip your parents' assets. There's no reason to. You can ask your parents pretty quickly some of these 3 questions. You can ask them what their current balance of their cash, savings, and checking accounts are. What I would say is never put 0. 0 flags for verification. Your parents must have a cash, savings, or checking account somewhere. Even if they have $50 in that checking account, put that number down. It asks the second one if they have any investments, including real estate. If they don't, that's a 0. And if they have any businesses or investment farms, and if not, 0s. I don't know a lot of us who have investment farms, so usually that's a 0. Then it asks now for your information, and it goes through the same questions, but if you completed a tax return. If you haven't completed one, you write did not file, or you answer. And again, you can link to the IRS. See, same stuff, adjusted gross income, earnings from work, your income tax. Did you receive any of these credits? Did you pay child support or receive child support? Did you have any military allowances? All of these things. A lot of them end up being 0s for a lot of our students. Then it asks what your total current balance of cash, savings, and checking. Again, you have $25 in there, put the $25. If you have no cash, savings, or checking accounts, obviously that's a 0. If you have any real estate, you put that in. If not, it's a 0. And if you have any businesses, again, that's usually a 0. It asks if you're a preparer. You are not a preparer. You are a student. Even if you have a family member or someone like TRIO SSS or Student Financial Services assist you, they are not a preparer. So you click no to this one and keep it moving. It will then bring you to your summary. You want to look through it to make sure everything is correct. If you transferred from the IRS, it will say transferred from the IRS. You will click next. And the next thing you have to do is provide your signature. You click provide student signature, you agree, and then you sign this FAFSA. And then you do it again for your parent. Put in their FSA ID if it's parent number 1 or parent number 2. So your father might be parent number 1, but you might have made an FSA ID for your mother who is parent number 2. Just remember which is which and sign it as needed. Easiest way of doing it is looking for the date of birth or if they have a different last name. You put in your FSA ID, you put in their password, you agree, and you sign it. Now, if you cannot get your parents' FSA ID, there are other ways to sign and submit your FAFSA. You can sign electronically, like we just said. You can print a signature page, or you can submit it without signatures. Never submit it without a signature because this does not allow it to be processed. Print the signature page, have your parents sign it, and then mail it. When you're done, you click Submit My FAFSA Now, and then it will say, congratulations. It will give you all of your information, and it will send it off to HESA, which decides your tag or New Jersey grant. If you're an independent student, what I'm going to say is it's not going to ask for your parents' information. It is only going to ask for your information. If you have any other questions, or you'd like to do this with an SSS or Student Financial Services counselor, please don't hesitate to contact Christina_Dilkes at bloomfield.edu or financial_services at bloomfield.edu. And that's the best way to complete your FAFSA nice and easy. What I do is I keep a ruler with me, and while I'm looking at the tax transcript or the tax return, I literally just follow it with the ruler so that I can figure out all of the numbers. Don't get nervous. If you don't know or it says 0, put 0. If you're unsure, put down what you think the number is. And if it's not, we can always fix it or amend it at another time. Again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact either Student Financial Services or the TRIO SSS program. I hope this was helpful, and I will talk to you soon.